Okay, welcome back everyone to our Matzah Shabbos Marathon, as we are sponsored by Dr. Block this evening in the schus of his great-grandchild's Pidyon Haben, Pinchas Aaron, to his children Pesach and Abigail Greenwald, Mazel Tov. We are holding by Amarava 2 lines from the top of Chav Gimel Amud Aleph as we rejoice in the freeing of another 13 hostages back home to their families and to Klal Yisrael, and we hope that Hashem should rescue all the hostages and bring an end to the miserable Hamas and security and safety to all of Klal Yisrael. Amar Rava, Kasha Leila Abaya, there was a difficulty to Abaya. Lamandi Amar Ishay Mishum Chitzai, according to the Mandi Amar, that fire is like an arrow. Taman be'esh the poter Rachman eichi mishkachaslo. There is a unique feature of fire that if I burn down Beresh's crops and hidden inside his crops he has $1,000, I'm poter from paying for the $1,000. That's a din of taman be'esh, that if it's hidden, I only pay for what is outside. But that doesn't fit if fire is like my force. Because if I shoot an arrow and I rip a suit, and inside the suit is an expensive autographed Babe Ruth card, and I destroy it, I have to pay for the Babe Ruth card. There's no p'tur of taman by fire. So therefore, if Eish works as an arrow, taman be'eish the poter Rachman eichin mishkachsa, what would be the case where you're poter with taman? V'nichalei, and he had the following ingenious answer. Kigain shenofla dleika lo'isei chatzer. My fire went into a property. Now, my fire was contained by a fence. So when I lit the fire, it only had range to go up to the fence. I had a wall there. Now, the nofla geder shalei machmas deleka. Then the wall fell down, not because of the fire. And I should have put back up the wall before the fire spread. And I didn't. And now the fire goes and burns down Beresh's crops with $1,000 inside. So there I'm not chayav because of my force, because when I lit the fire, it didn't have the range to go past the wall. I'm only chayav because when the wall fell down, I didn't put back up the wall or put out the fire. So there I'm only chayav because of the money aspect, because the fire was my money. And therefore then we could say taman be'esh is poter. The hasam kolu leichitzai. There my force ended. It can't be considered my arrow because when I lit it, it wasn't able to cross the wall. So the Gemara says, well, if you only hold the Eisha is Mishum Chitzai and not Isha Mishum Amayna, Iachi le'inyan gilui, even Beresh's crops that are in the open, I shouldn't be chayav. Because Nami Kol Chitzav, it's not my force anymore, since when I lit it, it wasn't able to cross the wall. Ella says the Gemara must be Lamanda Islay Mishum Chitzai, the one that says fire is an arrow, Islay Nami Mishum Amayna, he holds it's also the money. So here, where my force was exhausted, because when I lit it, it wasn't able to pass the wall, but the fact that the wall fell down and I didn't stop the fire afterwards, there I'm chayav for mamayna, and in that case, I'm poter for taman. Okay, gain shahayu loy legaid, right? I should have fenced it, v'loy gadra, and I didn't fence it. Da'asam shayrayu. Now, when it says shayru, it doesn't mean shar, it means eish. But it means it's eish like my shar. And therefore, v'loy tafach ba'ape, and I didn't stop it from going. So asks the Gemara, V'chi me'achad demand islay mishum chitzay, islay nami mishum amaynai. So then why say that you're chayiv mishum chitzay? My beinayu. Makes a big difference. Because if my fire does damage and you hold Eisha Mishum Chitzai, then I'm chayiv like a damage of Odom, and I'm chayiv Daled Devarim. Not only am I chayiv for Nezek, but I'm also chayiv for Tsar, Ripui, and Sheves. Rashi says only Daled Devarim. I'm not chayiv for Boishas. Because Boishas, humiliation, you're only chayiv if you meant to do it. If you had kavanah to humiliate. But once it's Chitzai, it's like Odom Amazik, and I would pay l'chayve ba'arba dvarim. I would pay not just the damages, but also for the tzar, for the medical, and for the temporary unemployment. What did you ask me?
Yeah, isn't Taman Ba'esh will exert sakosif that is potter?
Right, it's exert sakosif by Eish, not by something which is human damage.
So I understand. So the kasha was, if you hold Eish of Mishum Chitzav, then it's a kasha. What if it was mamono? It is also a problem with Taman.
No, it's not.
Why not?
Because then it's the mammon called Eish. And there we say P'tur of Taman. But if it's Adam Amazik, so then there's no P'tur of Taman by Adam Amazik.
And what's so terrible is saying there's a P'tur of Taman by Eish if it's Mishum Chitzav?
Because then it's not Eish, it's human activity. That's the idea that's why we said that if fire would burn down somebody, you'd get capital punishment.
Yeah, okay.
Now, ala charora mishalem. Now, let's get back to the case of the Chinese cookie. What happened was, is Rabbi Kran's dog grabbed Menachem's Chinese cookie and ate it. And it had coals. And it went and burnt down a field, crops. So he said that Rabbi Kranz is chayiv for the cookie, a nezek shalom, because that's shame. And for the crops, he's chayiv a chatzi nezek. So we're going to learn now that the cookie belonged to Menachem, but the coals belonged to Shelley. So now the Gemara wonders, so we said that for the cookie, Rabbi Kranz pays a nezek shalom. That means he pays a nezek shalom to Menachem. For the crops, let's say it was Dr. Guy's crops. For the crops, he pays a chatzi nezek. Now, the Gemara at this point learns that the coals, let's say the coals belong to, let's say the coals belong to Menachem. So only Rabbi Kranz is chayiv. Menachem, he's not chayiv anything. Now remember, we had a whole shaila what happened over here. So we had two ways to learn. That according to one, Rabbi Kranz's dog ate the cookie, threw the cookie on Dr. Guy's crops. So on the crops, on the place where on the place where he threw it. Let me just, instead of doing it by heart. Let me look inside. Yeah. So according to the Mandi Yamar, that says that Ishay Mishum Mamonai, that fire is his money. So on the cookie he pays an Ezek Shalom. On the place of the crops, on the place where the coal landed, he pays a Chatzi Nezek. And on the rest of the crops, right? On the rest of the crops, since it's not Rabbi Kranz's money, because it wasn't Rabbi Kranz's fire, so on for the cookies, Chayav and Ezek Shalom, for the place where the coal lands, he's Chayav a Chatzi Nezek, because that's Srairis, and for the rest of the crops, he's Potter. While Rabbi Yochanan says that it's talking about where Rabbi Kran's dog put the coal down on Dr. Guy's crops. So for the cookie and the place that he put it down, he's Chayav and Ezek Shalom. And for the rest of the crops, since it's considered chitzai of the dog, so it's sreiris, it's a Chatzi Nezek. Now at this point, the Gemara assumes that the coals belong to somebody else. So the Gemara there says V'lechayiv nami bal gacheles, let also the owner of the coal be chayiv in what Rabbi Kranz doesn't pay. So the Gemara says b'shishimer gachaltai. No, because he took care to watch his coal. So the Gemara says, if he watched his coal, my boy Kelev Hasim, what was the dog doing there? B'shechater, the dog tunneled its way in, and the Gemara says we see that tunneling for a dog is considered normal behavior. It's not considered unusual activity for the dog to tunnel in. So the Gemara says, on whose property did he eat the cookie? Remember, it's Menachem's cookie. In Dr. Guy's property. But you have to be chayiv only if you eat it in Menachem's property, because it was Menachem's cookie. You have to consume it in the owner's field, the leka. Says the Gemara, oh, it's talking about where he ate the cookie and it was Menachem's crops. So now the Gemara says a wild thing. We said that you're only chayiv if the animal eats in the victim's property. But when he puts the cookie in his mouth, is his mouth considered Menachem's property? Or is it Rabbi Kranz's property?
Who owns the dog?
Huh?
Who owns the dog?
Rabbi Kranz. Now we're saying that he's chayiv because he eats it in Menachem's property. But what's the mouth of the dog? Says the Gemara, Tifshait, we should resolve over here the pi para, that the mouth of the dog is kechatzer hanizik dami. It's like the domain of the victim. It's like Menachem's domain. The kechatzer hamazik dami, because if it's Rabbi Kranz's domain, he should say, what's your cookie doing on my property? What's your bread or your cookie doing in the mouth of my dog? Now, at first glance, this sounds absolutely ridiculous. What do you mean? Your animal wandered onto my property and took the cookie and put it in his dog. What do you mean, what's it doing in the mouth of my dog? Says the Gemara, Di boilu, we have such a shaila, pi para, the mouth of the cow, is it kechatzer anizik dami? Does it have a din like the property of the victim? Oy kechatzer hamazik dami. So then, right away, everybody is going to ask, everybody's going to get apoplectic. If the mouth of the animal is like the property of the damager, and we know when it's in the property of the damager, you're not chayiv because you could say, what were you doing on my property? Then how are you ever chayiv for shein? V'i amrit kechatzer hamazik dami, shein the chayiv rachmana heichi mishkachasla. How would you ever have a case where you're chayiv for shein? Anytime the animal puts it in his mouth, it has a din of the rishus and the mazik, and when it's in the rishus and the mazik, you're not chayiv. Says Mar, that's not a problem. Where the animal rubbed against the wall for a back rub and knocked down the wall. So that's shame because he's having benefit and it wasn't in his mouth. Or of a tin for... Could I finish? Or of a tin for peiris la'nasa. Or if the animal went to relieve itself and dirtied fruit, or did a roll for enjoyment and dirtied fruit, so it wasn't in his mouth. So the Gemara says, but we said that the source of the damage of shein is maskenar zutrav abina kashiyah v'agolol atumay. We need hagolol. Remember, we said it's a tooth because it's sometimes revealed and sometimes not revealed. Kashiyah v'agolol. You need that it should be consumed atumay in its entirety. And when you rub against the wall or rub dirty fruit, you're not consuming it in its entirety. Veleka. So Ravina says that's not a problem. It could be talking about the shaft tzalmei, where the animal rubbed against decorations on the wall and rubbed out the entire decoration. So it's atumai, it's complete. Rav Ashi Amar depasei psuei. It rubbed on fruit and it sunk into the ground, so it got totally destroyed. Now, of course, there's so many questions over here that are too many to bear. For example, first of all, the Mishnah said, what's shein? An animal is mu'id lechel es aroila. According to this, if you learn pi para is rishus hamazik, then how do you learn that Mishnah that says shein is mu'edis lechel aroila? Lechel is in the chatzar hamazik. Secondly, we said, if you remember, eating shein by eating, that's the av. The other stuff is a tolda. It would come out that we don't have a source for the av. So these are all questions, and Tosfos asks all these questions. If you look at Tosfos towards the bottom of Chav Gimel Amid Aleph, continuing on to Chav Gimel Amid Beis. But the Gemara is going to deal with it in a different way. Tashma, Shisa Bayas HaKelev, Shisa Bayas HaNachash. If, let's say, let's say Shimon, who has this diabolical look on his face, let's say Shimon incites a dog at Chatzkel, or incites a snake, potter. The din is that Shimon is potter. Obviously, the Gemara will hold now that if he does it, that's considered a grama. So man potter, who's potter? So the Gemara says, Mishase potter, the one who incites is potter, but v'chayev balakev, but the dog that bites the person is chayev. But wait a second. If the mouth of the dog is considered like the owner of the dog's property, Leimalei, you should be able to say to him, my boy yodcha b'pumi de kalboy, what's your hand doing in my dog's mouth? Again, a wild claim. Amos says, the Gemara pater af mishasa, that not only is the dog pater, but also Shimon, who incited the dog, is also pater. The Ibai is saying, why is the owner of the dog chayiv? And it's only Shimon that's pater. The apke l'nive v'sarte. He stuck out his teeth and scratched the person. That's why he's chayiv, because his hand wasn't in the dog's mouth. Tajma, hey shechbayas hanochish. If he incites a snake. Now, in this case, when it says hey shechbayas hanochish, it means he took the snake and he used it like a knife. He stabbed the person with the snake. Held the snakes. This is, I'm telling you, Shimon is like, watch out tonight. Right? He takes the snake. He says, you didn't come to the daf. Right? And he, watch out, I have some, excitable Talmidim. You didn't come to the daf for 3 days. He takes the snake. So it says, Hishich Bayas Hanachish, Rabbi Yehuda Mechayev, V'chachamim Poitrim. Rabbi Yehuda says that Shimon is Chayev Misa. It was a poisonous snake. And the Chachamim exempt. It says to the Gemara, the question is whether the poison is right by the teeth. So if the poison is right by the teeth, so then it's like he stuck him with a cyanide-tipped sword, and he's going to be chayiv. He's going to be beheaded. It's murder. The one that says Potter holds that the eris of the snake has to be manufactured from inside the snake, so that when he sticks him with the fang, it's only a grama. Let's see it inside. That the poison is right there between its teeth. The one Shimon who stabbed him gets beheaded because it's murder. But the snake is not put to death because the snake wasn't a murderous snake. Shimon did all the work. The divrei chachamim eris nachish me'atzmai meki. The poison isn't there. It has to be manufactured and come from the innards of the snake. Lefikach, therefore, Shimon is only a grumma, and nachish beskila, it's the snake that decided to kill. So then the snake is put to death because an animal that kills is put to death. Or makish pot. But v'i amrit pi para kechatzer amazik dami. But if the mouth of the cow is like the owner's property, so leimalei, Shimon should be able to say, "My boy yodcha b'puma dechibai." What's your hand doing in my snake's mouth? Says the Gemara, and in such a case, not that Shimon should be exempt from Misa, because he pushed it in, but it means that if the snake manufactures the poison, why do we put the snake to death? The owner of the snake should say, what's your hand doing in my snake's mouth? So the Gemara says, we don't use that reason when it comes to putting a nuisance to death. How do we know this? The Tanya, if let's say Chatzkel comes onto my property without permission, and my axe gores Chatzkel and kills him, so obviously umeis, and he dies. Shel balabayis umeis. So hashar b'skila, we still put my axe to death because it killed a human, even though I could say, what was Chatzkel doing on my property? Or Balam Pturim and Akaifa, but I put it from being Kaifa because I said, what were you doing on my property? But even though I have a claim, what were you doing on my property, still the shar is a menace and it's put to death. Balam Pturim and Akaifa, my time, and Amalei B'Rishusi, my boys. What were you doing on my property? Shara Nami Leimile. So why is my axe put to death? Why don't I say, my boys B'Rishusi? Elinin Katola, when it comes to putting a nuisance to death, Lo Yamrina. We don't say that. Hano Ize debate Turbu. There were goats belonging to the family of Turbu. Rav Yosef. They were wandering into Rav Yosef's property and eating his stuff. Now Rav Yosef didn't have a fence around his property. So Amalei Labaya, he told Abaya, Zil Emalu Marayu, please tell the owners to Litznenu that they should take care of their goats. Amalei, so Abaya said to Rav Yosef, why should I tell them that? Amay Ezel, I know what they're going to tell me, that you should have a fence. Amay Ezel, Diaz Lilno, Amalei Ligdar Magadira Barak, you should have a fence around your property. Says the Gemara, V'i Gadar, if the responsibility is to have a fenced property, so Shein the Chayiv Rachman Eichi Mishkachasla. Where are we going to ever have a Chayiv of Shein? If everybody has to have fenced property, so no animals are going to come in and consume fruit in another person's property. So the Gemara says, Kishechotra, where he tunnels in, because remember we said it's normal behavior to tunnel in to a property. Inami denofel guda belelia, where the wall fell down in the night before the owner had time to fix it, then if the animal wanders in, he has to pay Nezek Shalom. Machriz Rav Yosef announced, the Isema Rabbah, and others say Rabbah, the Solkin Le'ilah, those that go up to Eretz Yisrael, or the Nochsin L'Tachta, and those that come down to Bavel, Hani Ize de Shuka, goats of the marketplace, the Mifsadeh, that cause people damage. They cause people damage. Masrinan B'Raraya. We warn the owners. Now we warn the owners even if these animals are only doing damage in the Rishus Harabim. Now in the Rishus Harabim, for Shane, you're potter. But if this became habitual, that these goats are eating people's stuff, we warn the owners, Trey Utlasa Zimni, 2 or 3 times to take care of their goats. Itzayis. If they listen, they listen. Because as Rashi says, they were going to slaughter the goats, but they were waiting till the market day when they could get a good price. So Itzayis. If until the market day, they take care of their animals, good. V'loi, and if not, Amrum Leitiv Amasachta, go shech them and sit by the market, V'kibel Zuzech, and get as much money as you can. You can't keep these animals around as a public nuisance. Okay, Baruch Hashem, we'll stop over here. Rabbi Yisai, we're going to learn now the Mishnah Yomis, and also I want to remind you that tomorrow night shir is normal at 8 o'clock. Also want to remind you, it is possible, I'm not sure, but it is possible that I might yet do a chok tonight. If I do a chok, I will send out a text. So you might want to just check it out, as we're learning now, Bava Kama 22 and 23. 22 and 23. Great to have everybody.
So, great to be here. Did we get the CM closer? Or
Not yet. I'm still trying to figure it out. One of the ideas we're throwing around is to maybe make a siyum for men and women on a Matzah Shabbos.